let's talk about one of the biggest, most ambitious ideas in all of human history: space colonization. And you know what? It's not just for sci-fi movies anymore. This could seriously be the next great adventure for humanity. So let's just start with the biggest question right out of the gate. Will humans actually truly ever live on another planet? For a long, long time, this was pure fantasy. But with the technology we're developing right now and some incredibly ambitious plans in the works, the answer is starting to look a lot less like maybe and a lot more like yes. But that leads to another really important question. I mean, we've got a pretty amazing planet right here. So why on earth would we go through all the trouble and the massive expense of leaving it? Well, there are a few huge reasons. The first one is maybe the most important: the long-term survival of our species. You've probably heard the phrase, "don't keep all your eggs in one basket." Well, right now, Earth is our one and only basket. Then there's the hunt for new resources, because the stuff we have here won't last forever. Plus, pushing into space creates incredible new technologies that often make life better right back here at home. And honestly, there's just that part of us that's gotta know what's out there, that deep down curiosity to explore. Okay, so if we're gonna do this, where do we even begin? Well, the most logical place to start is with our closest celestial neighbor, the Moon. The main reason the Moon is the perfect first step is simple. It's close. We're talking a travel time of just 3 days. In the grand scheme of the universe, that's nothing. It's shorter than some family road trips. That makes it a relatively safe and manageable place to start figuring all this out. But how would people actually live there? It's not like we can pack everything we need. The plan is to live off the land. We know there's frozen water in deep craters, and we could use that for drinking and even to make rocket fuel. To stay safe from dangerous radiation and tiny meteorite impacts, we'd probably build habitats underground. And yeah, the low gravity, only 17% of Earth's, would be fun. You could jump crazy high. But most importantly, a moon base would be our launch pad, a stepping stone for missions much, much deeper into space. So yeah, the Moon is our training ground. It's where we practice. But the ultimate goal, the place everyone is really dreaming about in our solar system, is that huge leap to the red planet, Mars. And when you compare the two missions, you really see what a giant leap it is. The travel time skyrockets from just 3 days to a grueling 7 to 9 months. And unlike the Moon, which has basically no atmosphere, Mars has a thin one, but it's mostly carbon dioxide, so you can't breathe it. On the bright side, a day on Mars is almost the same length as a day on Earth, which is a nice little touch that might make it feel a tiny bit more like home. And then there's the cold. The average temperature on Mars is a shocking minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That is just unbelievably cold. Colder than anywhere on Earth, even Antarctica in the winter. Just figuring out how to stay warm there is a monumental challenge. Okay, so it's far, it's freezing, and the air is unbreathable. How in the world, or I guess how on Mars, is anyone supposed to survive? Let's dive into the super clever solutions scientists are working on. Really, it all comes down to the absolute basics of survival. You can't just ship a lifetime supply of air, water, and food across millions of miles of space. That's just not going to work. You have to figure out how to make what you need right there on the spot. And this is where the genius-level engineering comes in. For air, there's a machine being tested right now that literally pulls oxygen directly out of the carbon dioxide in the Martian atmosphere. Amazing, right? For water, we'd send robots to mine the ice that we know is hiding just under the soil and at the poles. And, just like they do on the International Space Station, you recycle everything. We're talking advanced filters that can turn all wastewater, yep, even sweat and breath moisture, back into perfectly pure drinking water. All right, air and water, check. But what about food? You can't live on freeze-dried packets forever. Future colonists will have to be farmers, but they won't use soil. Instead, they'll use a technique called hydroponics, growing plants directly in nutrient-rich water under special LED lights that help them grow super fast. So far, things like lettuce, radishes, and tomatoes seem to work well. And for protein, well, the future might look a little different. We could be talking about insect farms or maybe even lab-grown meat. Of course, none of this works without a power source to run all the heaters, lights, and life support systems. There are basically 2 big options on the table. Solar power is the obvious one. The sun is right there. But Mars has long nights and planet-covering dust storms, so you'd need massive, super-efficient batteries to store all that energy. The other option is a small, compact nuclear reactor. That would give you a steady, constant stream of power, 24/7, no matter what the weather is doing outside. So, let's say we figure all of that out. We've got our survival checklist covered. What's the long-term vision? This is where we go from just surviving on another planet to actually building a real, permanent future for humanity beyond Earth. Now, here's a key thing to remember. Long before any human ever sets foot on Mars, our essential partners will already be there hard at work. I'm talking about robots. They are the true pioneers, sent ahead to do all the dangerous and difficult jobs to get our new home ready for us. And what kind of jobs are we giving them? All the cool stuff. Imagine giant 3D printing robots using Martian soil to build the first habitats. Mining bots digging for water and minerals. Heavy lifters moving all the big equipment around. And drones flying through the thin Martian air to map out the entire area. They're basically the advanced construction crew, making sure the landing site is all prepped and safe before the humans even show up. You've got to see this whole thing as a step-by-step process. It's not all going to happen at once. It starts with a permanent base on the moon. That's step one. The next goal is to use what we learned there to build the very first human colony on Mars. Looking even further into the future, we might build giant spinning space stations that create their own artificial gravity. But the ultimate dream? That's something called terraforming. Terraforming is this absolutely mind-blowing concept of changing an entire planet's environment to make it more like Earth. We're talking about changing the atmosphere, warming up the temperature, and basically engineering a whole new climate. It would be, by far, the biggest project in human history and would take thousands of years to pull off. But the end goal? To one day be able to walk around on the surface of Mars without needing a spacesuit. Just think about that. And all of this, all the technology, the planning, the survival, it brings us to one last and maybe the most important question of all. It's less about the how and more about the who. When we finally do get out there and start building these new worlds among the stars, who will we as a species become?